It's a really good question. Federal marketing is a term that I never heard of before I started doing it. And what it means to us is to be able to help companies either in the federal business, in other words, working with the government, or wanting to be a government contractor, figure out how to navigate and be successful from not only a profitability point of view, which is important, but from a partnering point of view, getting results for their customer. Politically, there's always an issue of industry versus government and employees of the government versus employees of companies, but they're all our neighbors. We have government workers as our neighbors in not just Washington, but across the country. It is important in Washington to understand the public policy issues and understand that things take time in Washington. If you have an idea rather than responding to an RFP, you can get it done here. And it can happen through the Hill, it can happen through agency, it can happen through a procurement kind of idea, but you have to have patience and you have to really look at the stakeholders from their point of view and bring them into the fold and get supporters on all sides. And that's what we try to do. We try to really be politically aware, politically agnostic, though, because it's all about business that will help government accomplish its mission in a cost-effective way. Well, the overall difference that I've seen, having looked at these budgets for many years now, is that there is a real emphasis from the White House down through the agencies of knocking down stovepipes, creating interoperability, especially in technology. They're big, if you remember the campaign, on social networking, on grassroots, on collaboration. So even though the Obama administration is talking about insourcing, in other words, bringing jobs that industry has inside, they are still very interested in and dependent on their industry partners to ensure that the services and the missions are accomplished. Well, when you talk about toxic atmosphere, what I remember is when I was working as a senior staffer in the Senate in the 80s when the Republicans were in the majority, and there was a budget vote just like they're going to be now, and Vice President Bush was in the chair in the Senate to make the deciding vote because they thought it would be a tie, and the Republicans couldn't get enough votes. So they brought in Senator Wilson, who was at that time Senator from California, Pete Wilson. He had just had an emergency appendectomy, but they needed his vote. And so instead of trying to come up with a deal that could be supported without this vote and without the vice president in the chair, they wheeled him in a gurney with an IV in his arm. Needless to say, this was before TV in the Senate. So it's been toxic before in my whole experience. I think it's a little worse, but we get things done kind of below that level of dialogue.